The announcement, the crystal chandeliers of the Meridian Grand Ballroom, cast glittering reflections across the polished marble floor as tech industry titans mingled beneath towering floral arrangements. Tonight's product launch for Kane Dynamics was meant to be Marcus Kane's triumph, the unveiling of his revolutionary neural interface technology that would cement his position as the most innovative mind of his generation. Victoria Sterling adjusted her midnight blue evening gown and surveyed the crowd with calculating green eyes. She hadn't been invited, of course. Marcus would never risk having his greatest rival witness his moment of glory. But Victoria had her ways of getting into exclusive events. Tonight, she had a very specific purpose. Marcus stood at the center of attention near the presentation stage, his silver hair perfectly styled, his charcoal suit impeccable as always. He was holding court with a circle of venture capitalists and tech journalists, his confident smile never wavering as he gestured animatedly about market disruption and paradigm shifts. "Ladies and gentlemen," Marcus announced, tapping his champagne glass with a silver knife, "if I could have your attention, please." The conversations gradually died down as hundreds of pairs of eyes turned toward the stage. Victoria felt her pulse quicken. She had waited 3 years for this moment, 3 years of careful planning, strategic positioning, and patient execution. "Tonight marks a new era in human-computer interaction," Marcus continued, his voice carrying easily through the acoustically perfect ballroom. "The neural interface you're about to see will revolutionize how we what, Marcus?" Victoria's voice cut through his speech like a blade through silk. She stepped forward from the crowd, her heels clicking against the marble with deliberate precision. "How we pretend that stolen technology is innovation." Collective gasp rippled through the audience. Camera phones emerged from evening bags and jacket pockets. Marcus's face went pale, but his media training kicked in quickly. "Victoria Sterling, everyone," he said with forced joviality, always the dramatic entrance. "Though I'm surprised too. See you here tonight?" Victoria smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "Oh, I wouldn't miss this for the world, especially since we're business partners now." The silence that followed was deafening. Marcus's eye twitched almost imperceptibly, the only sign that her words had found their mark. "Partners?" asked Rebecca Torres, the tech reporter from Silicon Valley Weekly, stepping forward with her recorder already running. "Didn't Marcus tell you?" Victoria's voice carried perfectly in the hushed ballroom. "Sterling Industries has just acquired a 35% stake in Kane Dynamics. We're going to be working very closely together on all future projects." Marcus opened his mouth to deny it, but Victoria continued smoothly. "The paperwork was finalized this afternoon. I'm surprised Marcus hasn't mentioned it yet. Perhaps he was saving it for the big reveal." Every eye in the room turned back to Marcus. He was trapped, and Victoria could see he knew it. If he denied her claim publicly, he would look foolish and uninformed about his own company's financial status. If he went along with it, he would be validating whatever game she was playing. "Victoria always likes to jump ahead of official announcements," Marcus said carefully, his jaw tight. "The details are still being finalized." "Oh, the details are quite finalized," Victoria replied, pulling out her phone and showing what appeared to be legal documents. "Signed, sealed, and filed with the Securities Commission as of 4:30 this afternoon." The crowd pressed closer, phones recording every word. Victoria knew that within minutes, this exchange would be trending across every social media platform. Financial news outlets would be scrambling to verify her claims. Stock prices would fluctuate. Most importantly, Marcus Kane would spend the rest of the evening and likely many sleepless nights afterward, trying to figure out exactly what she had done and how she had done it. "Well," Marcus said with visible effort to maintain his composure, "I suppose congratulations are in order then. ... partner." Victoria raised her champagne glass in a mock toast, her emerald eyes never leaving his face. "To new beginnings," she said. The game had officially begun. The masquerade the morning after the launch party. Marcus Kane sat in his corner office on the 42nd floor of the Kane Tower, staring at 3 different news articles that all bore variations of the same headline. "Sterling Industries acquires major stake in Kane Dynamics, surprise. Partnership announced." His hands trembled slightly as he reached for his third cup of coffee, the bitter taste doing nothing to clear the fog of confusion and rage clouding his thoughts. His assistant knocked, entered without waiting for permission or privilege. James Chen had earned through 5 years of impeccable service and an uncanny ability to anticipate Marcus's needs. "The board meeting has been moved up to 10 o'clock, James said, setting a fresh stack of documents on the mahogany desk. "They want answers about the Sterling acquisition. Also, there's been unusual activity in our stock price since the markets opened." Marcus rubbed his temples. "What kind of activity? Come 12% and climbing? Investors seem excited about the partnership?" James hesitated. "Sir, I've been through all our financial records 3 times. There's no documentation of any stake sale to Sterling Industries. Nothing in escrow. No pending transfers. No communication with their legal team." "Because there isn't one," Marcus said grimly. "Victoria Sterling played everyone last night, including me. But the question is why, and more importantly, how do I get out of this without looking like either a liar or an idiot?" Before James could respond, the office door burst open. Natasha Reed strode in wearing a sharp gray blazer and an expression that suggested she smelled blood in the water. The investigative journalist had built her reputation on exposing corporate corruption and had never particularly liked Marcus's business practices. "Mr. Kane," she said without preamble, "I'd like to ask you a few questions about your new partnership with Victoria Sterling." "I'm not taking interviews right now," Marcus replied, but Natasha was already pulling out her recorder. "Is it true that Sterling Industries now owns 35% of Kane Dynamics? Because according to public filings, no such transaction has been recorded. Are you operating under some kind of private agreement that bypasses normal disclosure requirements?" Marcus felt the trap closing around him. If he admitted there was no partnership, he would have to explain why he had gone along with Victoria's charade. If he maintained the fiction, he would be party to market manipulation. "All business relationships evolve over time," he said carefully. "Announcements don't always align perfectly with paperwork completion. So you're confirming there is a partnership?" "I'm confirming that Victoria Sterling and I have ongoing discussions about collaboration." 3 blocks away, Victoria was having her own challenging morning. She sat across from her company's head of legal affairs, Thomas Wright, in Sterling Industries' pristine conference room. The older man's expression was a mixture of professional concern and barely contained horror. "Victoria, what exactly did you do last night?" Thomas asked, his voice strained. "My phone has been ringing non-stop with reporters, SEC investigators, and Kane Dynamics lawyers demanding to know about this supposed acquisition." "I created an opportunity," Victoria replied calmly, sipping her Earl Grey tea. "Choose between publicly humiliating himself or playing along with my narrative. He chose to play along, but there is no acquisition. We don't own any part of Kane Dynamics. This could be construed as securities fraud. Market manipulation? Only if I actually claimed to own shares," Victoria interrupted. "Listen to the recording carefully, Thomas. I never said we purchased anything. I said we had acquired a stake and that we were going to be working closely together. Both of those things can be interpreted in many ways." Thomas pulled up the video on his tablet, his frown deepening as he listened. "This is semantically clever, but ethically questionable. What's your endgame here?" Before Victoria could answer, her secretary buzzed in. "Miss Sterling, there's a Helena Vance here to see you. She says it's urgent and concerns the Kane situation." Victoria's teacup paused halfway to her lips. Helena Vance knew that name from somewhere but couldn't place it immediately. "Send her in." The woman who entered was in her 60s, with steel-gray hair and piercing blue eyes behind designer glasses.
Oh.
She moved with the confidence of someone accustomed to commanding rooms full of powerful people. "Miss Sterling," Helena said, extending a manicured hand, "we haven't met. But I believe we have a mutual interest in Marcus Kane's downfall." Victoria studied the woman carefully. "I'm sorry, have we met?" "Your name is familiar, but Helena Vance, formerly of Vance Capital Management. I was Marcus Kane's first major investor, back when he was just a hungry graduate student with big dreams and questionable ethics." Helena's smile was razor-sharp. "I've been watching your little performance. with great interest. Tell me, how far are you willing to go to bring him down? Thomas cleared his throat uncomfortably. Perhaps I should leave you two to discuss this privately, I know, Victoria said, her instincts telling her this conversation was about to become very important. Thomas stays. Helena, why don't you tell me exactly what your interest is in Marcus Kane? Helena settled into a chair with predatory grace. Because 15 years ago, Marcus Kane stole my life's work, destroyed my company, and left me for dead. And now, it seems, someone else is finally in a position to return the favor. The conference room fell silent, except for the soft hum of the air conditioning. Victoria realized that her carefully planned revenge might be about to become much more complicated than she had ever imagined. The past unveiled Helena Vance leaned back in her chair, her fingers steepled as she studied Victoria's reaction. Silence in the conference room stretched taut until Helena finally spoke again. 15 years ago, I was where you are now, Victoria. Young, brilliant, and convinced I could change the world through technology. Marcus Kane was my protege, doctoral student I mentored at MIT who had incredible potential but lacked moral boundaries. Victoria exchanged glances with Thomas, who was frantically taking notes. What kind of work were you doing, Neural? Interface technology, Helena said, and Victoria felt her blood run cold. The same technology Marcus unveiled last night as his revolutionary innovation. I developed the foundational algorithms in 2009, funded by Vance Capital. Marcus was part of my research team. Thomas stopped writing. You're saying Kane stole your research? Worse than that, he didn't just steal it, he systematically destroyed my company from within. Marcus had access to all our financial records, our client lists, our proprietary code. Over the course of 6 months, he leaked sensitive information to competitors, sabotaged key partnerships, and convinced my board of directors that I was mentally unstable. Helena's voice remained steady, but Victoria could see the carefully controlled rage burning in her eyes. The final blow came when he presented my neural interface prototype as his own work to a consortium of investors. They funded his startup while my company collapsed under a mountain of lawsuits and regulatory investigations. I lost everything: my reputation, my fortune, my life's work. If this is true, Victoria said slowly, why didn't you expose him years ago? Helena smiled grimly. I tried. But Marcus had covered his tracks well, and he had powerful friends. The tech industry rallied around their golden boy while painting me as a bitter, failed entrepreneur seeking revenge. I was blacklisted, discredited, and ultimately forced to disappear. Disappear how? Thomas asked. I faked my own death, Helena said matter-of-factly, as if discussing the weather. Car accident off the Pacific Coast Highway. Very dramatic, very final. It was the only way to escape the legal vultures and start fresh. Victoria leaned forward, her mind racing. So for 15 years you've been, what, hiding? Planning revenge? Rebuilding? Helena corrected. I've spent the last decade and a half creating a new identity, accumulating resources, and waiting for the right moment. When I saw your little performance last night, I realized that moment had finally arrived. Meanwhile, across town, Detective Roy Harrison was having his own revelations about Marcus Kane. The veteran investigator sat in his cluttered office at the Financial Crimes Unit, surrounded by boxes of evidence and computer printouts that painted a disturbing picture of corporate malfeasance. His partner, Detective Lisa Monroe, knocked and entered, carrying 2 cups of coffee and a thick manila folder. The Sterling Kane investigation just got a lot more interesting, Lisa announced, dropping into the chair across from Roy's desk. I've been digging into both companies' financial histories, and there are some serious red flags. Roy looked up from his computer screen where he'd been analyzing shell company transactions. Tell me you found something concrete. Kane Dynamics has been using a network of offshore accounts to funnel money through at least 12 different shell corporations. The amounts are significant. We're talking about $40 million over the past 3 years. Money laundering? That's what it looks like. But here's the weird part: some of those shell companies trace back to Sterling Industries. It's like they've been engaged in some kind of financial dance for years. Roy frowned. You think they've been secretly collaborating this whole time? That the rivalry is just for show? Or, Lisa said, opening her folder, someone has been very carefully setting up someone else. Look at this. She spread out a series of transaction records across Roy's desk. These payments from Kane to Sterling shell companies, they correspond exactly with major Sterling Industries product launches. It's like Kane was paying Sterling for industrial espionage. Or Sterling was extorting Kane, Roy mused, studying the documents. This is sophisticated financial manipulation. Someone with serious accounting and legal knowledge orchestrated. There's more, Lisa continued. I found records of a company called Vance Capital Management that was dissolved 15 years ago. Guess who was one of their final clients before they went under? Marcus Kane. Bingo. And the CEO, Helena Vance, supposedly died in a car accident right around the time Kane Dynamics was founded. But here's the kicker. I can't find a body. No remains were ever recovered from the crash site. Roy sat back in his chair, pieces of a complex puzzle starting to align in his mind. So we potentially have a dead woman who isn't actually dead, a tech mogul who may have built his empire on stolen technology, and a rival CEO who's been either collaborating with him or systematically destroying him for years. And now they're supposedly business partners, Lisa added. This is either the most elaborate corporate fraud I've ever seen, or the strangest revenge plot in Silicon Valley history. Back in the Sterling Industries conference room, Helena was pulling out her own folder of documents. I haven't been idle these past 15 years, Victoria. I've been documenting every crime, every stolen innovation, every life Marcus has destroyed in his climb to the top. But I needed someone with the resources and credibility to help me expose him. What makes you think I want to destroy him? Victoria asked, though they all knew the answer. Helena's smile was knowing. Because you're Victoria Sterling, formerly? Victoria Chen, MIT graduate, class of 2018. Marcus Kane was your thesis advisor, wasn't he? And your business partner in your first startup, Neuralink Solutions. Victoria's face went white. Thomas dropped his pen. He destroyed your company the same way he destroyed mine, Helena continued relentlessly. Stole your neural mapping algorithms. Convinced your investors that you were unstable and absorbed your technology into Kane Dynamics. The only difference is that you were smart enough to bounce back. Victoria's hands clenched into fists. How do you know all this? Because I've been watching both of you for years, waiting for the right moment to bring him down. And now, with Detective Harrison's investigation closing in and your public challenge forcing Marcus into the spotlight, that moment has finally come. Lena stood and moved toward the window, gazing out at the city skyline where Kane Tower dominated the horizon. Question is, Victoria, you ready to finish what we both started? The reckoning Marcus Kane hadn't slept in 3 days. His usually immaculate office looked like a war room, financial documents scattered across every surface, empty coffee cups forming rings on his mahogany desk and his expensive suit. Wrinkled from sleeping in his chair, the weight of maintaining Victoria's fabricated partnership was crushing him. But admitting the truth would be professional suicide. James Chen entered quietly, his face grim. Sir, we have a problem. Actually, several problems. Marcus looked up with bloodshot eyes. Define several. Detective Harrison from Financial Crimes is downstairs with a warrant. Natasha Reed is about to publish her investigative PSI, managed to get an advance copy. James placed a tablet on the desk, and the board has called. An emergency meeting for this afternoon. They want you to provide documentation of the Sterling partnership, or they're voting on your removal as CEO. Marcus stared at the tablet screen. Reading the headline of Natasha's article, The Kane Deception, How Silicon Valley's Golden Boy Built an Empire on Lies. His stomach dropped as he scanned the opening paragraphs. New evidence suggests that Marcus Kane's meteoric rise in the tech industry may have been built on a foundation of corporate espionage, stolen intellectual property, and financial fraud. Sources close to both Kane Dynamics and Sterling Industries reveal a complex web of shell companies, offshore accounts, and suspicious financial transactions dating back 15 years. She knows everything, Marcus whispered. How is that possible? Before James could respond, Marcus's phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Meet me at the Meridian Hotel, penthouse suite. Come alone, we need to talk." 20 minutes. Later, Marcus stepped off the elevator into the opulent penthouse suite, his heart pounding. Victoria stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows, silhouetted against the afternoon sky. She wasn't alone. An older woman with steel-gray hair sat in a leather armchair, watching him with predatory intensity. "Hello, Marcus," Victoria said without turning around. "I believe you remember Helena Vance." Marcus felt the blood drain from his face. "That's impossible. Helena is dead. Reports of my death were greatly exaggerated," Helena replied smoothly, standing with fluid grace. "Oh, I must say, attending my own funeral was quite the experience. Your eulogy was particularly touching, considering you'd spent the previous 6 months destroying everything I'd built." Marcus's legs felt weak. He gripped the back of a nearby chair for support. "Helena, I can explain, can you?" Helena stepped closer, her blue eyes like ice. "Can you explain how my neural interface algorithms ended up in your patent applications? Can you explain how my research data was leaked to my competitors? Can you explain how you convinced my board that I was embezzling funds from my own company?" "We're unstable," Marcus said desperately. "Your ideas were brilliant, but you were making dangerous decisions." "I was trying to protect the research by stealing it," Victoria finished, finally turning around. "The same way you stole my work 5 years later? The same algorithms, Marcus. Helena's original code, filtered through my improvements, and then claimed as your innovation." Helena pulled out a thick folder. "I've spent 15 years documenting your crimes, Marcus. Every stolen patent, every destroyed partnership, every life you've ruined in your climb to the top. The evidence is overwhelming. What do you want?" Marcus asked, his voice barely a whisper. "Justice," Helena replied. "And the truth." Victoria moved to the suite's conference table where several laptops were set up. "While you've been scrambling to maintain our fictional partnership, we've been busy. Detective Harrison's investigation. We've been feeding him information for months. Natasha's article. We provided her with documentation going back 15 years. Your board meeting this afternoon," Helena added. "They're going to discover that. Sterling Industries doesn't own 35% of Kane Dynamics, but I do. It's through a series of shell companies and offshore acquisitions. I've been systematically purchasing Kane Dynamics stock for the past 3 years." Marcus staggered backward. "That's impossible." "I would have known, would you?" Victoria smiled coldly. "You're so arrogant that you never bothered to look closely at your own shareholder reports. Helena owns 36% of your company, as of this morning. Combined with the shares held by 2 board members who are very interested in hearing about your past indiscretions, that's enough to remove you as CEO." Helena opened her laptop, showing Marcus a live feed of Kane Dynamics. "Trading floor, your stock price is about to collapse. In about 10 minutes, Natasha's article goes live. 20 minutes after that, Detective Harrison will hold a press conference announcing your arrest for corporate espionage, fraud, and money laundering." "You can't do this," Marcus said, but even as he spoke, he knew they could. "My company employs 8,000 people. You'll destroy their livelihoods." "Your company," Victoria corrected, "built on stolen technology and fraud? Those 8,000 people deserve better leadership." Marcus's phone began ringing insistently. James probably calling with more bad news. He ignored it and looked. Between the 2 women who had orchestrated his downfall. "What about you, Victoria? Your hands aren't clean in this either. You've been manipulating stock prices, making false public statements. I've been careful to stay within legal boundaries." Victoria replied. "My lawyers have reviewed every statement I've made. Unlike you, I understand the difference between clever maneuvering and criminal activity." Lena stood and walked to the window, gazing down at the city below. 15 years ago, you took everything. From me, Marcus, my work, my company, my reputation, my life. You forced me to disappear, to become a ghost." She turned back to face him, and Marcus saw something in her eyes that made his blood run cold. "But ghosts have one advantage," Helena continued. "They're very good at haunting people." Victoria's phone chimed with a news alert. "It's official," she announced. "Natasha's article just went live. Detective Harrison is holding his press conference. In 15 minutes, through the penthouse windows, Marcus could see news vans gathering outside Kane Tower, his empire. Built over 15 years of calculated betrayals and stolen innovations, was crumbling in real time. "You've won," he said quietly. "Both of you. What happens now?" Victoria and Helena exchanged glances, and Marcus realized that his nightmare was just beginning. "Now," Helena said with a smile that held no warmth, "you face the consequences of your choices." As if on cue, Marcus's phone buzzed with a text from James. "Sir, Detective Harrison is here with an arrest warrant. Security is asking where you are." The reckoning had arrived. The truth emerges. The press conference room at the Meridian Hotel buzzed with anticipation as reporters from major news outlets filled every available seat. Victoria Sterling approached the podium with measured steps, her navy blazer crisp and professional. The past week had been a whirlwind of revelations, investigations, and corporate upheaval that would reshape the technology industry. Helena Vance sat in the front row, no longer hiding her identity after 15 years of living in the shadows. Thomas Wright, Sterling Industries' legal counsel, sat beside her with a thick folder of documents. Notably absent was Marcus Kane, who had been arrested earlier that morning on multiple charges of corporate fraud. "Thank you all for coming," Victoria began, her voice steady despite the magnitude of what she was about to reveal. "I called this press conference to provide a complete and honest account of recent events involving my company and Kane Dynamics." Room fell silent as cameras focused on her face. "Last week, I made a public statement claiming a business partnership between Sterling Industries and Kane Dynamics. This statement was false. I deliberately misled the public and the media to force a confrontation that would bring hidden truths to light." Murmurs rippled through the crowd of journalists. Several began typing rapidly on their devices. "I want to be completely transparent about my actions," Victoria continued. "While my legal team has confirmed that I stayed within the bounds of securities law, I acknowledge that my methods were ethically questionable. I chose deception as a tool for justice, and I take full responsibility for that choice." Natasha Reed raised her hand from the front row. "Miss Sterling, what motivated you to take such drastic action?" Victoria's expression hardened slightly. 5 years ago, Marcus Kane systematically destroyed my first company, Neuralink Solutions. He was my business partner and mentor at the time, stole our proprietary technology, manipulated our investors, and left me with nothing but legal debts and a ruined reputation. She gestured toward Helena. "But my story is just one of many. I'd like you to meet Helena Vance, whose experience with Marcus Kane goes back much further than mine." Helena rose and moved to the podium with quiet dignity. Despite everything she had endured, she commanded respect simply by her presence. 15 years ago, I was the founder and CEO of Vance Capital Management," Helena began. "Marcus Kane was one of my research associates working on neural interface technology that I had spent a decade developing. I trusted him completely, a trust that cost me everything." She explained how Kane had gradually gained access to her company's most sensitive research, then used it to undermine her credibility while positioning himself as the industry's next visionary. The technology that Kane Dynamics has built their reputation on originated in my laboratory in 2009. Marcus didn't just steal my work. He destroyed my company and drove me into hiding to escape the legal and financial devastation he caused. Detective Roy Harrison stepped forward from the back of the room. "The investigation into Kane Dynamics has revealed a pattern of corporate espionage, spanning multiple companies in 15 years. We've identified at least 7 other businesses that were undermined through similar tactics," a reporter called out. "Detective Harrison, what specific charges is Mr. Kane facing?" "Corporate espionage, securities fraud, and conspiracy charges. We're also investigating money laundering through a network of shell companies. This is one of the most complex white-collar crime cases we've handled." Thomas Wright approached the podium as Helena stepped aside. "Both Ms. Sterling and Ms. Vance have cooperated fully with law enforcement. While Ms. Sterling's tactics were unconventional, they've helped expose serious crimes that affected multiple victims over many years." Rebecca Torres from Silicon Valley weakly stood up. "What happens to Kane Dynamics and its employees now?" Helena answered thoughtfully. "The company employs many talented, honest people who had no knowledge of Marcus Kane's activities. As the largest shareholder, I've been quietly acquiring stock through various investment vehicles for 3 years. I'll be working to ensure the company continues under ethical leadership. Victoria nodded in agreement. Sterling Industries will be implementing new transparency measures and divesting from any business relationships that were compromised by these revelations. Our employees and shareholders deserve better. A technology blogger raised her hand. Ms. Sterling, some critics are calling your actions a form of corporate vigilantism. How do you respond? Victoria considered the question carefully. I understand that criticism, and I don't take it lightly. But when legal channels fail, when corruption is protected by power and influence, sometimes unconventional methods become necessary. I chose to risk my reputation to expose the truth. She paused, looking directly into the cameras. The technology industry has a culture that often rewards ruthless ambition over integrity. We celebrate disruption without asking who gets hurt. Marcus Kane isn't just one corrupt individual. He represents a systemic problem that we need to address. As questions continued, Victoria felt a strange sense of relief. The elaborate deception was over. The truth was finally public, and justice was beginning to take its course. Helena returned to the podium for closing remarks. For 15 years, I've lived with the knowledge that a thief was profiting from my life's work while I remained silent in the shadows. Today, that silence ends. Not just for me, but for every innovator whose work has been stolen, every entrepreneur whose dreams have been crushed by corporate predators. 6 months later, Victoria sat in her redesigned office, smaller but brighter than before. The scandal had cost Sterling Industries some clients initially, but the company's commitment to transparency had ultimately attracted new partnerships with organizations that valued ethical business practices. Helena knocked and entered, carrying her daily report from Kane Dynamics. Under her leadership, the company had implemented comprehensive ethics policies and established a victim compensation fund for businesses that had been harmed by Marcus Kane's actions. The quarterly numbers are strong, Helena reported, settling into her usual chair. Employee morale is at an all-time high, and we've signed 3 major contracts with companies that specifically chose us because of our commitment to ethical practices. Victoria smiled. Any word on Marcus's trial? His lawyers are pushing for a plea deal, but the prosecutor seems confident in the case. With all the evidence we've provided and the testimony from other victims, he's looking at significant prison time. They sat quietly for a moment, watching the San Francisco skyline. Kane Tower had been renamed Vance Innovation Center, symbolizing the transformation from corruption to integrity. Do you ever regret how we handled this? Victoria asked. Helena considered the question thoughtfully. I regret that it took 15 years for justice to prevail. I regret that other people were hurt while Marcus built his empire on stolen work. But I don't regret fighting back. She paused, then continued. We proved that even powerful people can be held accountable for their actions. We showed that the truth has value, even when it's difficult to reveal. Maybe we've made it harder for the next Marcus Kane to destroy innocent people's lives. Victoria nodded, feeling something she hadn't experienced in years: genuine peace. Outside her window, a new generation of entrepreneurs was building the next wave of technological innovation. Thanks to their efforts, perhaps they would do so with greater integrity and respect for the people whose ideas and dreams made progress possible. The truth, as difficult as it had been to reveal, had ultimately set them all free.